Hey guys, I'm in Los Angeles at Little Pine Restaurant with Moby. You are the owner, co-owner?
For better or worse, I'm the only owner.
Okay.
So like I used to have a restaurant in New York called Teeny, and I opened Teeny with an ex-girlfriend of mine. Well, technically we broke up the day it opened, and maybe it's because I'm an only child or solipsistic, I have no idea, but like I am just generally better at like trying to run things by myself. So I have a friend of mine who's the manager and the general manager and the chef here, but I'm the sole owner. So if it's terrible, it's purely my responsibility.
What made you open up Little Pine?
Well, so I've been a vegan now for 28 years.
Okay.
I became a vegetarian in 1984, and then finally became a vegan in 87. And in that time, I mean, my life's work is animal welfare and animal rights, and so I've spent 28 years trying to figure out how to be a good animal activist and an advocate for animal rights and animal welfare. And part of that is writing essays, part of it is putting out books, part of it is interviews and trying to fund documentaries, but a big part of it is also trying to represent veganism in the real world. And what I mean by that, like, it's one thing to like information is very important, imagery is very important, but creating a physical space wherein people can experience a very nice side of veganism, I think is really important for advancing the cause.
Yeah, it's great because really we start with the food that we eat, and this is a great place to start. And I hear that the proceeds from here go to animal benefits, right?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the only thing I give money to is animal welfare organizations. And Little Pine is not the most profitable place because restaurants don't make a ton of money, but any profits that come into Little Pine go to animal welfare organizations, in addition to other money I'd be giving to animal welfare groups. So it's stressful, it's time consuming, it's costly, and I could never make a penny from it.
What inspired you to go vegan?
So when I was 10 years old, I found an abandoned baby kitten at my town dump in Connecticut. I grew up in Connecticut. And I took this baby cat who was maybe 4 days old home. Its eyes weren't opened. My mom and I took it to the vet, and the vet said, this cat might not live. So we took it back home, gave it some medicine, and then my grandmother's dachshund adopted this cat and nursed it back to health. And the cat ended up living to be almost 20 years old.
Wow.
So when I was 18, I was petting this cat, his name was Tucker, and I loved Tucker the cat, who I'd known since he was 4 days old, more than anything. And I looked at Tucker and I saw that Tucker had 2 eyes and a central nervous system and a profoundly rich life. Like Tucker was happy and adventurous and affectionate. This animal had such a really profound emotional life. And in an instant, I suddenly realized all animals have profoundly rich emotional lives.
Right.
And just as I would do anything to protect Tucker the cat from pain and suffering, I should do anything I can to protect all animals from pain and suffering. Right. So that was what turned me vegetarian in 84. And then a few years later, that same just love of animals and a simple desire to protect animals from suffering led me to be a vegan.
Awesome. Yeah, similar story. What would be your advice to new vegans or somebody that wants to go vegan, they're not sure how to do it?
My advice, so as an old person, in 87 when I went vegan, the information was really hard to find. Luckily there was a health food store near me and they sold a book called Laurel's Kitchen, which is a really amazing, it wasn't 100% vegan, but it was like 99% vegan with like a few dairy recipes in there. An amazing cookbook. It taught me how to make brown rice. It taught me other things. And I bought Diet for New America by John Robbins, and I read PETA magazines. But back then the information was hard to come by, and now the information's everywhere. Whether it's a Humane Society website, a PETA website, a Mercy for Animals website, there's so much amazing information out there, and there's Whole Foods everywhere, and Trader Joe's and health foods. Like, it's so easy now to learn about veganism. The other piece of advice I would have to people, well, I guess two pieces. One, it's better to do something than nothing. You know, like if someone lives in Oklahoma and they're not near vegan restaurants, they're not near a Whole Foods, be as vegan as you can. You know, it's better to be almost vegan than not at all vegan.
I agree.
And the other advice I have to vegans is take care of yourself. You know, because I fully believe in a vegan diet, and it can be very healthy, but there's some nutrients like B12, calcium, DHA that we have to like sometimes make an effort to supplement ourselves with.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's so different than it was 20, 25 years
Yeah.
ago. There's so much information now. And so back to the restaurant, what would you say, what's your favorite thing on the menu?
Well, so the funny thing about this restaurant, we're a vegan restaurant, but a lot of people who work here are not vegan.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
So like the people in the kitchen, one of the reasons, like a lot of the people who work here come from a more traditional culinary background. And so the food here, it's kind of like vegan food that even non-vegans can love. So right now, my favorite thing is the stuffed shells, because it's what I grew up, it was one of my favorite things when I was growing up, where it's like stuffed, like large pasta shells, stuffed with a homemade ricotta, covered in like our house-made tomato sauce and vegan cheese and fresh basil, and it's really good. And it's so satisfying. Like I'll come in here with friends of mine who aren't vegan, and they'll expect to not like the food, and they'll eat some of it and they'll be so excited by it. Like so excited. Like I had this one woman stop me, and she's 60 years old. She'd never had vegan food in her entire life. And she pulled me aside and she said, I can't believe I like vegan food. And it was really, really encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, people just have to change that mindset. It's funny because our first recipe video we ever made was stuffed shells.
Oh, really?
Yeah, about
That is
six
really funny.
years ago. I've actually been following you for like since '95. I made a skate video. I used to make skate videos, and the first one that I edited and put music to was your.
Oh, really?
It was Go. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
And I'm a big fan of X-Files too. So, you're also straight edge.
Yeah, I had a funny path as a straight edge person. So I started drinking and doing drugs when I was 10 years old, and I got sober when I was 13. And then when I was 15 or 16, I started drinking again. So I would go to see Minor Threat with the X on the back of my hand,
Right.
but I called myself straight edge, but I drank, which clearly is not straight edge.
Right.
And then I had 8 years of sobriety, followed by 10 years of non-sobriety, and now I've been sober again for about almost 8 years.
Awesome.
And so I have a couple of friends who've never had a drink and never had a drug, and for them, they might not consider me straight edge, because in my past, I had a lot of drinks and drugs. But now, yeah, I consider myself a sober, straight edge vegan.
Okay.
Because Ian Mackay is an old friend of mine, and I like that what I like about straight edge is the idea of self-care and clarity. You know, like
Right.
if I'm gonna try and be a force for good in the world, the first thing I need to do is take care of myself.
Exactly.
You know, like if you want to change, you can't be an effective activist and be fucked up all the time. Like you can't go out you can't be hungover 5 days a week and have time to work for animals. You know, so I feel like
I agree.
by taking care of myself and having clarity, it enables me to see issues more clearly and work on them more effectively. So for me, that's the point of straight edge.
Well, I'm a fellow straight edge vegan,
Yeah.
so. And is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap this up?
Well, it's funny. I was doing a talk on meditation the other day, and someone in the audience asked me why I was a vegan. And I said, well, first and foremost, because I love animals, and I don't want human will to be imposed upon animals. I feel like every creature on the planet should be allowed to have its own life and its own will. So that's the main reason. But also, if everybody in the world became vegan, famine would disappear, Heart disease basically disappears. Cancer is reduced by 60%. Diabetes basically disappears. Rainforest deforestation is reduced by 80 or 90%. Ocean acidification is reduced by 25%. Climate change is reduced by 40%. Erectile dysfunction is reduced by 60%. Water use is reduced by 40%. Zoonotic disease disappears. And I looked at the person, I was like, are those enough reasons? Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned throughout my
Yeah.
many years that there's so many reasons to be vegan, and there's no reason not to. So
The only reason to not be vegan is,
simply, they don't want to.
yeah, is subsidies. You know, it's like the amount of money, the amount of our taxpayer dollars that go to subsidize meat and dairy production. That's the only reason people eat meat and dairy is because it's cheap. And the only reason that it's cheap is because it's so heavily subsidized. Like if you removed subsidies, a family of 4 going to McDonald's would spend $80.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so I don't know. I feel like future generations are going to look back and just be baffled. They're going to be super confused. They're going to say, okay, so you dug up oil from miles below the surface of the earth, even though there was tons of free energy coming out of the sky. You smoked cigarettes, even though they're a waste of time and they kill people. And you used animals for food, killing all the animals, torturing the animals, killing yourselves, and destroying the environment in the process, when there's food that's good for us, good for the animals, and good for the world. Like the fact that we make these terrible choices is so confusing to me.
No, I agree. And it comes back to what you said earlier. It's better to do something than nothing. So you have these big companies that aren't generally, vegan companies, but now they're seeing a demand for vegan products.
Yeah.
They're making vegan products, and it's going to shift in that direction. I think we need to give it some time, and it's just it's going to get there.
Yeah, I mean, 28 years ago when I became a vegan, there was me, John Joseph from the Cro-Mags, sort of, Joaquin Phoenix. I don't know how old he was then. A couple of the guys in the Bad Brains, but I didn't know maybe Gene Bauer from Mercy for Animals, but there weren't. Vegan was so small back then.
It was.
And now it's Whole Foods and Bill Clinton and Beyonce. Even if they're like not 100% vegan, the fact that the former president of the United States self-identifies as a vegan means that like the world has changed.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. And okay, so
it's okay. Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to stop watching if I get a delicious
you guys
chocolate
want to see
smoothie.
what Moby ordered?
I'm just,
Peanut butter cacao smoothie.
yeah. This is not the most sophisticated thing on the menu, but I'm,
Craving it, and that's
yeah, it's my little like self-indulgent sweet tooth.
All right, well, you tell the audience how it is, and I guess we'll wrap it up and
When you say how it is, what does that mean?
explain.
Oh,
how
this is. I thought you meant like how it is, like
Oh, how it is. No.
how the world. It's really tasty. It's very indulgent. It makes me feel sort of like an adolescent. And I think it's sort of a misnomer. Like we call this a smoothie because it's got some kale in it, it's got banana, but it's also got like some chocolate syrup.
So it's more like a milkshake kind of thing.
It's a milkshake pretending to be a smoothie, or a smoothie pretending to be a milkshake.
Anyway, it's good, and it's got good things in it for you. So I really appreciate this interview. It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you as well.
And you guys, if you're ever in Los Angeles, go to Little Pine Restaurant and check out the food.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video.